Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Today we are going to discuss another book review of City of Earth and Blood. I have already filmed a video with the second book of the series because, as always, in this channel we don't do things the way they are supposed to be done, we do them the other way around. I started from reading the second book of the series, House of Sky and Breath, and so we are going back to the first book, which I read a week or so ago, and I will review it and compare the two and suggest to you the one that you might want to read if you haven't so far, which is a mistake. So without any further ado, let's get down to the review. So, as always with House of Earth and Blood, I did listen to it on audiobook, and I think that that was a really smart choice because audiobooks are the books that you use when you don't have that much time to dedicate to reading, because you can use them whenever and you can listen to books while you're doing something else. So I think that for me they were a really good and great life-changing moment. Here is the book cover, and I just have to say I love it so much. I also did an essay on it because it's so great, such a beautiful illustration. And I have a lot to say about this book because I really loved it. I liked a lot that everything was motivated by something, and I loved Bryce as a character because she is very empowering but at the same time caring for her family. And what I didn't like as much was the sexual part, but this is just a personal preference, and in my opinion it was better than the one that happened in the second book, so I don't have much to complain about it. It was good. And the whole story goes that she is put together with the angel Hunt, and he has to control her because she's in danger, and they develop a relationship from that, which okay, can fit. And what I loved the most about the book is that it all evolves around friendship, and friendship in this book is between Bryce, Danika, and two other girls, June the Fawn and Yuri Exeter, which is basically a serial killer. And I think that that element was so great because we had Danika throughout, and what kickstarts the story is basically that Danika is killed, and I thought that that would have happened a lot later in the book, because after reading the second book I knew that Danika had been killed, but I thought that it was something that had happened later on in the first book, but it happens basically straight away. And so there is the whole research behind what happened with Danika, and they also discover the spread of a new drug that is very dangerous. And so it's really nice to see how much Danika is present even though she's dead throughout. And I love the ending so much because this element of friendship comes back, and it is even more important than the element of love, because love and friendship is so strong in the book, and I love that, which is something that I did not find as much in the second book, because in the second book the relationship between Hunt and Bryce has already developed a bit, and they are already in that zone, so there is friendship but not as much. And I didn't think it was as romantic because the true friend of Bryce was Danika, and she died, so that for me was a bit of a miss. But obviously you cannot do that much if she's not there anymore. But in the first book it was great because at the end, spoiler alert here, Danika comes back in a kind of ghosty form to allow Bryce to do the drop, which is basically the transformation and translation from the human form to the immortal form. And the immortal form is not immortality as an overall, but it's basically living for so long that you ended up being centuries old. And she does that drop with the help of Danika, that does appear in voice form and then in physical form that she can see, but it's just borrowed time. And at the end, Danika needs to go, but Bryce does let go of the haunting sensation that she needed to feel pain in order to remember her friend. So that aspect of it I loved. And another thing I loved was that Bryce is such a badass person and that she could fire guns, and I love that of hers because it really adds to her character and it adds a part of her personality that I didn't think was there. So I really love that, because she is not only badass in like the way she acts, because she's very straightforward, and she is also badass in the way she performs everything. And at the end, she really does follow through with her idea that she needs to sacrifice herself for her friends because she has this sense of guilt that she cannot get over. And I thought that that was a really nice thing of hers, and I think that there are certain elements in the whole story that are really sweet. So it's like she has a little, I think they are kind of unicorn puppies in plushy form that she keeps in a box, and I think that that's so sweet because it's a memory from her childhood. So I really thought that she was the perfect balance between badass and sweet, and I really loved that of hers. And so for me, the first book was 5 out of 5 stars because I really did love it. Whereas in the second book, comparing the two, I found that it was a bit more, not forced, because I loved it as much while reading it, but I found that certain parts were not as well done, because as I said, the relationship between Hunt and Bryce goes forward, and they do have one of the first sexual intercourses between them in a very disgusting way, because they do finish having a workout, they are all sweaty, and it's all used in a kind of, oh, it's so sexy way. But reality wise, if you think about what it would mean to actually do that without having a shower and without cleaning yourself, it just sounded so disgusting to me, and I really wasn't up for it, because it was, I don't know, I thought that it was a bit too much. So it was not as well thought through. It would have been better if they went under the rain and then they were all gleamy and shiny. I would have preferred that so much more. And contrary to what other people have said, I didn't mind the switching parts between characters in the various chapters, but this is because I listened to it as audiobook as well, and I think that that really helped me, because the person narrating the audiobook was doing different voices for each character, and I think that that was easier for me to understand compared to someone that maybe was looking at the book, and if the chapter was not marked as anyone, it would have been harder to understand who was talking straight away. So that, I understand that for someone reading the actual copy of the book would have been harder. So no complaints with that if you criticize it, because I do agree it's a bit hard. And the ending in the two books, and here massive spoilers, was completely different. Because in the first book, you have that at the end, after the whole culprit has been discovered, and I won't say who that is, but after that has been discovered, Hunt and Bryce have committed murder of two important people of society, and they kind of have to live with this, and they are being watched by the Asteri, which are the reigning force of Crescent City. So that is kind of scary, but they are allowed to continue living because they have done a service to the city of sending back demons. And so that, in my opinion, was really good because it lets you understand that there needs to be something else. They are at war, and in the second book what you have is how they develop and act towards the war, what they do. But in my opinion, in the second book, even though the information discovered is super interesting, I thought they were a bit reckless and a bit thoughtless, because knowing that they were being watched, they do things that are a bit too impulsive, and they end up having an end that is basically everyone has been captured, one person has gone to another planet, and there is a whole of a mess, and it leaves you there like there's no ending. It's an open end and you have just to wait for the following book. Whereas in the first book you had a beautiful ending that did open to new things, but it was a finished book as an overall. So I don't really like the ending of the second book because it leaves you with too many questions, and it's not my favorite way of finishing a book, because open endings for me are kind of a lame way of saying, oh, you have to read the following one. So the first one, in my opinion, was better in terms of ending. But hoping that you haven't taken away too much from it, that you don't want to read the books, I highly suggest both of them, and start from the right one if you haven't started at all, because don't do like me. I just do it because I don't really care the order of the book in a series. But yeah, if you start from the first one, you will see the difference, and I think that you will agree with me that the first one is better than the second one. But we have a lot to wait for the third one, and I can't wait to see the illustration on the front cover, and I'm very excited about it. So overall, I highly suggest that book for you if you haven't read it already, and I really hope that you enjoyed this review for me and comparison. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel and like the video, and that we will see each other in the next one.